Good afternoon, and thank you once again for joining this really interesting panel on prioritizing digital commerce. It has a rather Darwinian tone itself, where it says survival of the fittest. But given the situation that we are all in with the pandemic, it has only become more and more plain that the role and influence of technology in everyday lives is only growing. The ability to harness technology to deliver business outcomes, from be it financial services to customer satisfaction or even innovation, is fast proving to be the differentiator between those who forge ahead and those who get left behind. So on that note, I thought we could begin really by getting all of you to actually tell us how this pandemic has played out. To begin with, I thought we could start with Amit, really. And how, Amit, do you view the impact of the pandemic on the Indian e-commerce industry that has been so much in the news ever since the start of the pandemic, with analysts now predicting that the industry will grow to about 200 billion by 2026, up from, say, about 38 or so in 2017. And what does this really mean for, say, L'Oreal, a brand like L'Oreal?
Right. Thank you for that, Archana. And delighted to be here on this panel. This kind of video conference is a very good testimony of the kind of change which is happening. In ordinary circumstances, we'd all be out there physically talking to an audience. And now we have effortlessly made this move, and we've got an audience all over the country dialing in to listen to us. Well, we've been talking to experts in e-commerce. Our business is beauty, but, borrowing from the experts, some of them have said that the change in the last 3 months has been equal to the kind of change anticipated in 3 years. So, 2023 is here in 2020. And if you look at some of the facts in e-commerce, online grocery, which of course my colleague Devendra Chawla can talk much more about, has doubled on a monthly level from $1.5 to $3 billion a month in the period January to June. All kind of categories are seeing a booming of new shoppers. So the electronics category has got 15% new shoppers. The beauty category, which we are a part of, 18% new shoppers in the last 3 to 4 months. Absolutely. And pharma, of course, is a great example where 26% of all shoppers on pharma online are new to the category. Downloads are up 30%. Tier 2 and 3 India, which was slightly shy of online, now has embraced it. The senior generation, our parents, suddenly are online, they're gaming, they're talking to the kids on video, they're playing Scrabble online, etc. The rate of change is unbelievable. If you look at some of the sectors which are truly piggybacking this phenomena, I'd pick up education, Absolutely. Which is seeing almost a 6x growth in online classrooms. All our kids are becoming adept at dialing onto a Zoom class and doing wonderful things online. The health industry, obviously, with most consumers trying to avoid hospitals, I'm told that there's a 500% increase in online consultations. Yeah, so we are talking to our doctors, we are getting diagnosis, and of course, fulfillment, which is of the prescription, all of this happening online. So moving quickly, on to what it means for L'Oreal. We've got 3 significant businesses here in India. The consumer business, the luxury business, and the professional business. Each of them have seen a tectonic change in the digital and e-commerce area. So our larger consumer business, which was already very e-commerce friendly, is obviously seeing a major boom. So globally for L'Oreal, this is in the public domain, e-commerce for L'Oreal now has grown more than 50% month on month. And almost 20% of our global business has gone online. Yeah, that is the rate of change. This is aided in our consumer business by online streaming. So we're giving digital advice to consumers. There is virtual reality, which is helping people pick their favorite colors and creams, etc. And then in some of our other sectors, there's some very interesting anecdotes which I'd love to share, but in deference to time and my colleagues, I'd like to stop over there.
So Anurag, I thought we could quickly move on because everything that Amit just described points to a digital transformation for businesses. And that's happening across the board, across sectors. So from an Accenture point of view, for instance, what does this mean in terms of training or in trying to make this more possible for your clients really internally as digital tends to dominate your entire service offering? What does it mean internally for you in terms of hiring and training and so on from your perspective?
Yeah. Thanks, Archana. I think what Amit laid out was clearly, the significant shift that's really happened in digital commerce.
Absolutely.
What was already a trend has accelerated because of the pandemic, and now digital commerce has become front and center in terms of the importance. However, the kind of capabilities that are required to really execute digital commerce successfully is far different for a lot of businesses across sectors as compared to their traditional core strengths. Whether it's consumer tech, and Amit referred to virtual try-on, so whether it is marketing tech, whether it is the whole area of data and cloud, AI. So there is a lot of new technologies which is enabling the whole digital commerce ecosystem. And as we sort of discuss this across our clients, what we find is everybody is keen to sort of obviously move on and succeed in the digital commerce space, but they need to pivot and pivot fast some of their organizational capabilities. So what changes do they need to do in their operating model? What capabilities do they need to be building in-house versus, let's say, bringing in some partners in the ecosystem?
Sure.
How do they pivot to their own employees in terms of capabilities across each of these areas? Investments that are required to build these capabilities are also shifting, and investment from physical have to shift to digital. So there is a tectonic shift in the organizational capability that needs to be built to respond.
Absolutely.
However, the consumer has been forced to really, experience or undertake commerce sitting out of home. We've been doing consumer research literally every fortnight to see what the trends are. And we find that more and more as this pandemic is playing out, this could really become the decade of the home. Where consumers would want to experience most of these at home. So we really believe businesses don't have a choice. So they will have to sort of pivot towards these newer capabilities, look at investments to be made around these new capabilities if they have to service their customer in a much better way. We're also seeing new agile players entering. Obviously that was already happening pre-pandemic. That there are digital natives who are coming in, who are bringing in those capabilities altogether. So some of the existing businesses would really need to sort of pivot faster. And that's where the entire organizational capability framework comes in.
Devendra, this is, I think, really the point that we need to bring you in. Anurag mentioned the decade of the home. And we've seen grocery retail online grocery retail go through the roof really with the pandemic. And we've seen the buyouts, we've seen a lot of activity, corporate activity. What does this mean for offline grocery retail itself? And how do you see this trend going forward?
So thank you, Archana. Thanks very much for having me. You see, there's nothing called now offline, online. I think there's a customer and there's the ways to serve. We've been omni-channel, if I may say, first speak about my own company, Nature's Basket or Spencer's. We've been omni-channel for a couple of years. So a small part of our business was always coming through an app. Even Amit mentioned, for us, the number has gone up by 400% over the same time last year. The number of orders which are coming through an app. If we take delivery, which is through RWA, which is, cooperative housing societies or resident welfare associations, or even serving them at their home, that business has actually gone up even more than 400%. And there are various models which are evolving in the world. One is to come to the store, where definitely to answer you, in tomorrow's world, retailers will have to up the game on experience. Because for experience, people will always come out. I don't see a world where people will not come out to the malls or to the bars or not attend weddings or not meet people. I think that's a function of when the vaccine comes or whatever solution, herd immunity or whatever the world may find. But I do believe people will come out. And retail is an integral part of life. So rather than keeping offline retail as a center, keep the consumer at the center and see there are many ways to interact.
Sure.
And the same retailer has to do it. For example, we are doing it. Currently, as we speak, 70-75% of consumers are back in the store than pre-pandemic. Another 10-15% people are buying online, right? We are delivering through RWA, a small percentage of business. Then there is another model we are trying click and pick in some cities where people place an order online, and on the way back home from some other chore or way back from work or when they step out, they can pick it up on the way from the high street stores and they pick in. So if you keep the consumer at the center and see many ways you have to serve the consumer, I have no question that, and even whatever activity you may see, recent M&As or ever globally or in India, I think physical retail is an integral part of it. Let me put it this way. It's going to truly become omni-channel from what people used to speak a namesake omni-channel. From a smaller percentage, it will become truly omni-channel. And I've said for us, the business gone up 400%. And if I take delivery business, actually up even more than 600-700% over the same time last year.
That's really interesting. What you're talking about, the omni-channel, sort of the greater importance, I guess, for omni-channel itself. Amit, at this point, I thought I could bring you in and ask, what are the new models of commerce that you think will come up? Devendra mentioned how the consumer has to be upfront and center here on, without question. What do you think will be the newer models of commerce that will come up as a result of these changes that we are seeing? Payments, for instance, has become really prominent. Digital payments have become really prominent. So, we're seeing more and more traction in this area.
Yeah. So, which is, digital payments are a great testimony to obviously people embracing online. And it's one of the biggest facilitators. But about the models, the ones which at L'Oreal, what we are seeing, one to take a leaf from Devendra's book, is the entire online offline model. So, for example, we have a brand called Kiehl's, which was built around consumer consultation. So you have to walk into a shop and there's a consumer rep who diagnoses your skin, etc. Now, that entire model has moved to online consultation, and where we had to retrain a bunch of expert skin diagnosticians into how to give the same service online, and then graduate the customer over a period of time onto a behavior where they actually just go to the shop physically for a new product which they have to physically experience. Otherwise, the entire cycle goes online plus offline. So that is one piece, which is the seamless experience, O+O. The second thing which we are seeing, which is really interesting, is what we can call conversational commerce.
Sure. Okay.
So, for example, we have a network of salons. There are more than 40,000 salons out there. And guess what? People are not, very keen on moving in physically. So what happens? So these hairdressers now have really got into the swing, and we've been training them for the last 6 months now on online consultations, where along with a simple catalog on WhatsApp, they are now completing the consumer, DC talked about the consumer experience. So you have consultations through conversations, and that conversation leads to the commerce over WhatsApp and fulfillment over a Dunzo or a Swiggy.
Sure.
So it's a very interesting iteration which we are seeing, which is growing up. And I can see Anurag nodding away because they spoke.
I thought I would, I really wanted to bring him in at this point, actually, because what Amit's talking about are services that require more intuitive, offerings really from the technology perspective. So what are the, possibilities, say, through software, through hardware, that you can deliver to demands of the sort that Amit is probably going to make on companies like you? Quickly, if you could tell us from a perspective, really.
I think what Amit spoke was really interesting. How you can, in spite of the constraint of the consumer being at home, how can you service her to deliver a great experience in terms of virtual try-on, conversational commerce, and then obviously deliver the product to her house. So the technological trends are evolving at a rapid pace.
Sure.
I think where this has to start, and we see digital technologies, whether at the enterprise side or even on the consumer side, we see technologies can enable digital commerce. What is required really is how organizations define to what we said. What is the experience I want to deliver to my customer when it comes to digital commerce? When she's at home, how do I need to deliver? And then as we work backwards, we're able to leverage various technologies, some reference which Amit gave to, we can leverage a lot of these technologies together. We're also finding that a lot of the existing ecosystems, whether on the B2B side or the B2C side, can potentially get disrupted. Now, if I talk about B2B, even the whole distribution system, and the preferred, we can use last mile delivery to a Dunzo or some equivalents. Similarly, the various industries have their own distribution system.
Exactly. Yeah.
There was discussion on healthcare where the consumer, the patient actually has to first go to the doctor, then to the diagnostic lab, then to the pharmacy. How can digital enable a platform where all of this comes together? So I think the technology is there. It's all about designing the right.
Designing it and bringing it in, I think. Devendra, is one from your perspective, really, what are the enabling frameworks that you think are required for this omni-channel shift that you're talking about? What are the sort of back-end logistics, supply chain changes that we will require as more business goes digital, really, from, say, the perspective of your business, your industry?
I think the enablers which comes to my mind, and I think some of us have covered, I think digital integration of end-to-end supply chain processes are required. And when it comes to planning, and we need to bring in predictive analytics and demand planning and closed loop planning. I think also nowadays, if you see, a lot of work is happening on order management with no-touch order processing. And no-touch order processing is the logical next step after implementing a reliable, available-to-promise process. And these uses like machine learning and artificial intelligence and real-time planning, which leads to much lower cost, higher reliability, because you get much granular feedback than what we used to have earlier.
Absolutely. And you can measure much better.
Yeah. Absolutely. Another one is collaboration. I think the supply chain clouds are joint supply chain platforms, between customers or even between a supplier and a company. And that's providing like shared logistics infrastructure or even joint planning solution. Like Amit said, and even I may like to add to it. See, I'm a very big believer in the ecosystems which may develop, because you can't go it alone and do it. Today, every company, whatever resources you may have, you have a limited sphere of influence. So if I may say, on the first day of lockdown, the demand of delivery business went up like 5-6 times. And the number of people who turned up, employees, because of lack of transport, buses or trains, went down to half in the first 2 weeks, if you remember. So half the people and double the demand. So you need the pressure on infrastructure was 10 times. So we called up Uber, in one day, got a agreement done, a legal agreement while working from home, and had hundreds of cars at our stores next day. Now, who would have thought Uber would be delivering groceries? And we've done it through lakhs of consumers, not like small number. Then, like Amit said, in some cities, we have Dunzo as a partner. In Hyderabad, Flipkart reached out to us and we partnered with them. At the same time, for a fashion business, we use WhatsApp. We sent a catalog to consumers on a WhatsApp through our stores and agreed on a time, like an appointment-based model. And then we would show them on WhatsApp video if they want to buy and would deliver it. So I think if you see, one player is connecting with many more players, where it is supply chain, in collaboration, whether it is technology, whether it is delivery. Absolutely. And I think that is the world tomorrow of ecosystems. Even today, every payment or every mall is using another competitor's payment, gateway or a wallet.
Of course,
so that's like, that's like partnership. Like you may compete, but you also have partner.
You have to. So collaboration being the big ask in the digital age, right?
If I may say supply chain, I'll say micro segmentation. But I've covered a bit of it because I think that's going to develop in the future.
Sure. We just have 2 minutes left. So I thought we'd end with a wrap question I'll just give each of you a chance to tell me, clearly, what you spoke of, like there is a digital divide that's developing between companies with access to resources as much as customers who are also digital natives, right? Who can probably get the best out of the changes that we are seeing. How can this bridge be gapped? One solution from each of you. How do you bridge the digital divide in a world of increasing digital commerce? If I can begin with Anurag and then go around to Amit and Devendra quickly. One solution each.
I mean, while there are multiple solutions, we did mention one solution. Amit did mention, for example, we have, if we have to increase digital adoption, conversational commerce, how do we leverage AI to really bring in all the vernacular languages into our digital commerce, create something that is accessible and easy for our consumers to use.
Sure.
So I would say AI as a capability.
AI for vernacular and bring in vernacular users. Amit, from your side?
Yeah, I'm slightly old world on this one, Archana. Education. That's all.
Okay, great.
You have to train people. Over the last 6 months, we have trained 2 lakh hairdressers online.
Okay.
Through a YouTube, Instagram. And that's what you have to do. Get in the digital mindset into your organizations. You don't need rocket science. AI is much further away. Make it simple. Everybody has to think digital. It's everybody's job.
Devendra, finally. Thank you, Amit. And Devendra?
I have to say from the company side, I'll say develop a single source of data and single view of customer. Like we use a telephone number, whether you come at store or buy online, we connect through the same number and study your data and converse with you. When it comes to the haves and have-nots, I think the one which I would like to say is to bring in like all the rural and farmers digitally on board. I think while the cost of data in India is the least, it's 1/3 of the cost of US or half of China. But I think we need to get the smartphone penetration to 100%. And so bring the cost of smartphone. And then if you can advise the farmers on, which soil type, what soil science, when to grow, how much to water, what insecticide.
Absolutely.
I think that will usher in a massive era of digital commerce.
On that note, thank you very much for participating and for offering such absolutely doable solutions that surely industry and customers can take ahead. Thank you and have a wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you, Archana.
Good afternoon.